Frank. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Hey, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back to the park. Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to go tonight.
I like death.
Greetings, Ghouls, and welcome to minute 51 of Do You Want to Party, the Movies by Minute podcast for the 1985 groundbreaking horror classic, The Return of the Living Dead. I'm your host, Troy, and this episode brings us the Hallmark special that is...
Candice LePage. Love it.
I'm starting to run out of things to say, so I'm just like, you know what? I think I'm going to keep going with Candice and the Hallmark stuff because... Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm literally wearing a t-shirt that says, I like my movies the way I like my coffee. Dark.
Nice. All right.
But sometimes I put on my Hallmark, I'm in my Christmas movies eras t-shirt over top of it.
Excellent.
So
Nice. All right. So this minute is going to start with the skeleton breaking ground and ends with the medical help laying out the situation. So we start as our first rising corpse emerges from the ground, the fleshless skull pushing upwards. We jump to an even tighter shot of as the dirt rolls off the now revealed shoulders and ribcage. The head dramatically dropped forward at this time. The slow rising track of music makes a haunted accent to the sequence. The fleshless skeleton mechanically lifts further out, muck and dirt falling off of its now rain-coated bones. Its spine now visible as it presents itself further out of the hole of the grave. Then the head starts to tilt, and as we zoom in tightly on the face, its mud-covered top, missing tooth, mouthless grin, water dripping from its jaws and cheekbones. Remarkably, the skull still having the remains of eyelids. Once the head straightens itself up to an appropriate level, they snap open, revealing greenish blue eyes, which cues the line from 48 Graves' song, which is also the podcast's name, asking the question, its jaw drops open, the barely there muscles stretching to allow this, all on the cue of thunder and lightning. Suddenly, we look back at the six clustered together, watching this happen. Shock and terror in many levels across the faces. Tina, most focal, screams while tightly clutching the vest of Spider. She turns her head to his chest to avoid what she's seen. Without haste, the group disbands. Scuzz, Tina, and Spider dash down the steps, heading off to the right side of the frame towards the funeral home. Chuck, with his arm around Casey, run off in the other direction, back towards the entrance of the cemetery. But poor terrified Trash, scared beyond the idea of what to do, holds her hands over her mouth crying, still watching the creature. A close-up of her shows her fear that has bolted her feet where they are, as she's crying so much her entire body convulses. Somehow Tina has run off by herself, finding her splashing wildly until the movie trope of tripping makes an appearance. And she goes down hard, fully face-planting into the muddy water with tremendous force. Her body half submerged as she's lying in the water. Whipping her head upright, her drenched hair plasters itself to her face. Evidence of the torrential rain hitting the surface of the small pond she landed in. She gasps and attempts to open her eyes to witness before her a row of tombstones, 3 of which have reanimated corpses crawling out of the muddy disturbance. Unlike the first skeletal remains, though, these seem to be fresher, more meaty. Their mud-stained outfits as they are in different points of progression. lightning flashes to highlight them, one particular hurling itself out of its grave. Then we cut to the grave of Montague Davenport, 1861 to 1925, also written Peace at Last. Seems good old Montague is no longer resting as his head, mouth open, pushes through the wet dirt. Quite a bit of flesh on a man that has been dead for 62 years.
The kind of things you only notice when you're doing it by the minute.
Yep. We're also talking, this is like probably about 5 seconds of footage. So you're just cutting back and forth, cutting back and forth. That's what the good old pause button is for. All right. Cut to a dark-suited body, slick with mud, crawling from behind the Lillian Crabtree, 1879 to 1952, written Sweetness Itself, engraved marker. Jump to a very perplexing sight. A very fresh, mud-slick left hand and arm reaching up through the ground. In front of the gravestone, we see the words, Sweetness Itself, carved into it, making this the previously mentioned Lillian Crabtree, and at the time of death was 73, and being buried for 33 years, looks to have done wonders for her skin.
Maybe Ernie's just putting some extra bodies in there. He doesn't seem so much on the up and up. I'm just saying.
I didn't even think about it. Yeah, there's a good chance. So, I mean, technically she has been there since, if I do my math right here, in 1952. But still, you never know. There could be a corpse on top of a corpse. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Another cut to watch as a long-haired corpse, slathered in muck, hands crawling its way out of its exit. Still in the water, Tina screams while kicking her legs wildly. Behind her, the water explodes, splashing her as Spider jumps into her rescue, grabbing her by the waist and shoulder. He lifts, now being assisted by Scuzz, both struggling to pull the panicked Tina to her feet, as the guys watch the crowd of monsters becoming more populated by the moment. They finally get Tina upright, enough to both pull and push her, and subsequently themselves, from this area. After a few faulty steps, not enough to fall, all three of them turn and run as fast as they can for the situation. The lone, practically nude Trash has finally stepped away from the crypt. She cries out for the others as she stumbles. Blinded by the rain in her face, she grabs at a large tombstone to steady herself, but falls to her knees just past it. Still crying out for anyone. She makes it back to her feet and blindly carries on. She makes one last attempt to move forward, only to again fall to her knees in the water that covers her lower legs. Still crying, she brings her hands up to her face, her mascara everywhere. She tries wiping it away to hopefully clear her vision. She takes just the briefest of pauses as her raccoon eyes first look at her hands. Now aware she can see better, she looks ahead of herself. Disbelief quickly followed by terror as she brings her hands again to her mouth as she screams. Ghouls and Fiends, I give you Chekhov's Death Fantasy. Among the tombstones, some which read Bernice Strudel, 1897 to 1951, Susan Thomas, 1931 to 1979, Augustus B. John, 1877 to 1923, also written His Absence is Felt. And then finally, Carrie Holster, 1893 to 1937.
Was Carrie Holster like his cowboy drag name?
Carrie Holster. That's a, you know what? Actually, that's a pretty nice. That's a pretty good drag name. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right.
Keep that one in your holster.
I will definitely keep. Yes, I will definitely keep that one in my holster. Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Trash is suddenly set upon by a mob of crawling bodies. As Trash cries, still kneeling in the water, the muddy the muddy bodies pounce upon her, so scared to do anything until it's too late. 7 creatures pile on top of her, bringing her down. She screams all the way.
Now, they're not technically all old men, as she said she wanted. Some
Yep.
of them are probably old women, but you know,
Well,
y-
from the footage I can make out, it definitely looks like all like suits. It's all
hmm,
men's suits.
yeah.
Um, they're. I mean,
I'm just judging by some of the names that you're giving, but I guess
oh no,
yeah, those would
these are just the tombstones that are around her in this area. And obviously, there's no one coming out of those graves, or they've already gotten out of those graves and gone
yeah. Yeah,
anywhere
Bernice
because
isn't coming out or
yeah, exactly, exactly. I don't think Susan or
Bernice,
Augustus are going to make.
Carrie,
Yeah, exactly,
Augie.
exactly. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because these are waterlogged. These graves would be
Yeah.
under the water and all that sort of thing because this area is so deep with water. Meanwhile, back in the embalming room, Frank and Freddie still slump in the leather couch. Frank wrapping himself in the gray blanket, eyes calmly closed. Freddie looks up to the one paramedic facing the group. The 2 gentlemen still shiver. Ernie sits in a chair on Frank's side of the sofa, while Bert stands on Freddie's side. The one paramedic gives the rundown of what they've discovered.
You have no pulse, your blood pressure is 0/0. You have no pupillary response, no reflexes, your temperature is 70 degrees.
And after a pause, Freddie looks over at Frank slowly, then back at the paramedic, and asks, with almost a confused grin, to get more clarification.
What does that mean?
And as the paramedic is about to give his medical opinion,
Well, it's a puzzle. Because technically, you're not.
that's where we end the minute.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
we finally have, here comes our big return of
Mhm.
the Living Dead sequence. This is
It's actually such a like perfectly timed minute, like that it literally starts as the skull like
yeah,
pops out.
yeah.
It's just like it's really well. It just fell properly, which is nice.
Yes,
Just a lucky.
I am like really glad that it did head at that because it could be, I mean, we capture some really great stuff. We capture the musical cue, Do You Want to Party? We
Mhm.
hit the Tina hitting the water. We get like trash being decimated and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then we go back to set up the next scene, which
Yeah.
is great. So it's a wonderful little, like, the movie is doing this from now for the next little while. We have a lot of frantic stuff happening. We have
Oh
a
yeah,
lot
we're
of
in the climax.
yeah,
Like
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
It's all action for the next while. It sort of feels like this almost could be like a little music video. Like it would work totally as a music video, just the way it sort of starts with the song. And
it's
then like
yeah,
there's
yeah, I
no
see, yeah.
dialogue from the actors. They're just acting.
Mhm.
They're just
Yep.
reacting.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like it.
Yeah, we do hear a little bit of Trash calling out, but she's drowned
Yeah.
out by the rain and the music also still playing and all that sort of thing. So you don't quite fully hear what she's saying and all that, but
Yeah. And
yeah.
by the way, like let's talk about how they all fucking leave trash. Right? Like you described it as her being so scared that she's basically like freeze. No
Yep.
no fight, no
Yep, yep.
flight, just freeze.
Mhm.
Which sure, yeah, but obviously she moved after that. But like everybody just you know grabbed the dainty girl who needed help beside them and off they went.
Yeah.
Interesting that nobody grabbed trash.
Mhm.
And it's like just a reminder sometimes that the people who act the strongest are the ones who most need more compassion.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Right?
I'll back
Like-
you up on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like whatever. Tina, she fell over. She needed she did need some help. She needed both of those guys to help her back up.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not really the point. What we're talking about right now is trash and how her 5 friends in what's clearly a life or death situation, all left her.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, they're traumatized, but I don't know. I don't know. It's easy for me to say, obviously I'm not running from zombies.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the totally you're watching people run from zombies and you're like, I wouldn't be like that, but you never know
Yeah.
when you get into that situation. Yeah.
I think the point though in the movie is like everybody left. She
Yeah.
was left there by herself to die in exactly the way she said she wanted to, whether
Yeah,
that's
exactly. Yep.
just a thing she described for the first time tonight in some weird like foreshadowing, or if it was an always sort of thing. But oh my God, Linnea Quigley is so good because she is so terrified. This whole like she's just so scared,
Yeah,
and she does it so well as a person who also was acting so strong, like so in charge. So, and even when she was like freaking out because all the rain was falling on her, she was still very forceful. Right? In her fear, in her like, what is all on me? Oh my God, it burns. She's still very forceful, like telling Casey to give her the shirt. And like, yeah.
Well, that's again a testament to her acting is like pretty much from the get-go. Like again, the striptease, the powerful woman, the woman who knows what she wants to put out there of herself and all that. She feels so confident with herself that she has no qualms about taking off all of her clothes in front of all these people that she knows, obviously. The fact that she gets to the point where she's like when she's in the back of the car between Scuzz and Casey and all that sort of thing, how she's like so forcefully angry at Scuzz for picking up that hole above her to douse her again in water. From the moment that they all come out of the from the moment they all come out of the basement, Trash is in a completely emotionally draining, crying terror because her boyfriend, she just got like totally decimated and all that.
Whatever he was.
Yes.
The guy she really wanted to be her boyfriend,
exactly,
but I don't think they were.
The guy she's interested in. Okay, just in case, like whether or not it is actually that, we'll say that the guy that she has an interest in, that she
the guy that I think she was basically throwing herself at constantly, and he was not noticing or not reciprocating, or I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But no, she is a tour de force of acting in this movie. And for the most part, she does interact with almost every single character, but for the most part, Trash is by herself doing her own thing. And especially obviously for the rest of the movie, she does a completely different. She has the most like one of the most dramatic changes of any of the characters.
Spoiler alert, even though she is bitten to death by a bunch of old men, it's not really death, sadly.
Exactly. And I'm thinking that again, spoiler alert for the future, I don't think they actually eat her. I think they end up drowning her.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
because when she comes back, there's no bite marks on her skin. Like she is from this point on, she is fully, completely striptease style naked. She loses the little knitted sweater that she has. Exactly. That she has, and all that sort of thing. So all she has is the leg warmers. And she, like that sequence where she strides up to the homeless guy with the cart, completely no damage to her whatsoever. There's nothing. So I'm thinking that technically she didn't die the way she wanted to die because
I know there's also like 1.5 million theories and conversations about like why Trash as a zombie looks the way she looks, which is not like any of the other zombies and not like herself either. She has quite a bit of prosthetics on afterwards. And people are like, is it because she was doused with the rain? But that makes an interesting point that if she died by drowning, then she didn't become a zombie by being bitten.
Exactly.
As others would. But she is undead like Frank and Freddy.
Yes, exactly. And I think
So,
it's the amount of exposure to the toxin in the rain
mhm.
that has done it to her. So when she dies, she gets reanimated. Um, now, obviously, suicide's not going to come back because of the overdone damage to his brain.
Mhm.
But because again, spoiler alert, when we come back later and we end up in the basement again, I mean, the suicide's body is still just lying there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so apparently, as long as your brain survives to death, you're good.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
because I
Even
had,
though the yellow man was pickaxed to the head.
well, I mean, he was probably just like the picks were just into his ears, holding him
Okay.
up and all that sort of thing.
Sure.
So,
I don't.
well, no,
Well, no, but when he was killed, like when they
oh,
tackled
oh
him
no,
and
no, no,
tried to,
no,
and
no,
then they
no.
cut
Once
him
it's
up.
reanimated, no, once it's reanimated, it's a totally different game.
Oh,
But if
okay.
you survive to death with your brain intact, I'm thinking that's when you come back.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
wild
Who
theories. Just
knows? Who
exactly,
knows? We don't
exactly.
know. This
You know,
is it's just a yeah.
you know who knows? Dan O'Bannon, and well, we can't ask him.
True. And does he ever divulge? Probably not.
No, no, unless it's written somewhere in like the novelization of the movie through John A. Russo and all that sort of thing, which I'm still trying to track down and all that. But you never know. Over on the commentary track with director and writer Dan O'Bannon and the production designer William Stout. At the very start, William Stout points out how this is a huge disappointment. Dan O'Bannon softens it by saying that it was okay, but William Stout doubles down by mentioning that it was a disappointment for himself. He says when he originally saw it, and we're talking the skeleton
Yeah.
rising out of the
Yeah, I
ground.
know. I know he's
Yeah.
not happy with it.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I mean it's one of the things that everyone pretty much knows about this movie is that the guy in charge of this was like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's. But he mentions that when he originally saw it, that he said he couldn't wait to see it as he thought that was the rough working model, and he was horrified to find out that it was not so. Dan O'Bannon mentions that he himself was too busy being disappointed in other things to be
Oh,
disappointed
Dan.
in that. Yeah, exactly. uh, um, and then later on, as the guys pick up Tina, Dan O'Bannon mentions how messy it was doing all this with all the water, and it was cold, and it was
Yeah.
gloppy, and it was
And
nasty.
Linnea Quigley is nude. Like, how many infections did she get? Like, it's disgusting.
Well, I mean, technically they are controlling the actual water itself, but the fact that they're actually doing it in a an olive field and all that sort of thing, because that's where they
Yeah,
set up
there was
the
dirt.
cemetery
There
and all
was
that.
dirt
Oh yeah,
in
no,
that
no, it was
water.
actually,
It was muddy.
yep, it was actually an actual like olive
The
grove and all that
sand,
sort of
it
thing
gets everywhere.
everywhere. The only thing said during Trash's death is that Dan O'Bannon saying a bunch of corpses crawl around her at this point. So no background story to this sequence and all
Like,
that sort of thing. I'm like,
does
what are
he
you
just
talking
not
about?
understand that he wrote like, two
Yeah.
pairing like stories? Like this guy.
But it gets even better. So once inside the embalming room, Dan O'Bannon says, here we are again, and how he likes using the high angled, hide wide angles.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly. It is, you have to pretty much when you're talking about Dan O'Bannon, you get to the point where it's all huffs. It's all
Yeah,
huffs
you're
and
just like, oh, that's right. You are a misogynist. I forgot. I forgot. That's ridiculous.
It is a little, isn't it? Yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh, I don't like my work. Oh, look, I didn't do a good job on this.
Oh,
Meh.
except
One
for
of
the
our
parts
main
that
characters died in a really
yeah.
nasty way that was foreshadowed and has a lot of meaning, but look, I like this shot of these men.
So also to point out in the previous minute how this minute he's talking about how working in the water and all that sort of thing was all gloppy and messy and all that and sort of thing, and how previously he had mentioned that he has become like the expert at filming scenes with in rain because this movie and his next movie were like highly rained upon, and he's now the expert of shooting rain sequences. So
The expert, eh? And
yep.
what is his next movie?
The next movie, I do not have that in front of me, but
Like, have I even
during
seen this movie?
during the commentary track, actually, William Stout actually points out what it's called. Resurrected. William Stout asks if the movie was resurrected. Dan O'Bannon confirms that. Here's the line. Dan O'Bannon offhandedly mentions rain. He then mentions that the next picture he directed had a lot of rain in it, and how some of it was real as they shot up in Vancouver, where it rains all the time. But when it didn't, they brought in the machines, according to the script. So again, this is a story and screenplay by Dan O'Bannon. We're working with the revision from 1983 of October, and this is based on a story and screenplay by John Russo, Rudy Rickey, and Russell Steiner. Exterior, cemetery, night, storm. Frantically, the hand pulls the compacted dirt out of the way, and a corpse sticks its head out of the mud. The corpse tilts its head back, filling its lungs with air, and lets out a horrible howl of agony. The punks scream in unison and turn and bolt in different directions, oblivious now of the water they must run through. Chuck and Casey turn back towards the warehouse. Tina, Meat, and Scuzz run towards the mortuary. Tina trips and falls flat on her nose on the mud. And as she is getting up, she looks out across the graveyard and sees, wide shot, of 40 or 50 graves, out of each of which is crawling a corpse, an army of corpses, almost all of them screaming their heads off in hysterical panic. Meat pulls her to her feet, and they cut to, Dee Dee, stumbling through the graveyard, alone, her shirt sticking to her. Dee Dee, hey, wait, you guys, wait! I got no shoes! Dee Dee splashes through the pool of silvery water, foaming in the rain. Dee Dee continued screams, wait, you guys! Cut to, interior, mortuary, and bombing room, night, rain. The paramedics come back over from their huddle. Number 1 takes out a rubber hammer and hits Freddy's knee. No response. He goes to hit Frank's knee. No response. He takes a pen light from his pocket and shines it in Freddy's eyes. He and number 2 stare at Freddy's eyes. Then they do the same to Frank. Finally, number 1 switches off the pen light and straightens up. Paramedic number 1. You have no pulse. Your blood pressure is 0/0. You have no pupillary response, no reflexes, and your temperature is 70 degrees. Freddy, horrified. What does that mean? Paramedic number 1. Well, technically, that's where we end that particular minute.
Dun dun dun.
So did you realize what was missing from that?
Yes. Dee Dee, i.e. trash.
Yes. Yes, trash.
I
yes.
know. I had to like turn my brain back on. I was like, oh, that's right. They're different names in the script.
Again, it's something that I usually always point out when it first comes up, but this time I just went straight through it. So
yeah, I remembered. I got there. It just was a moment of like, oh yeah, right.
And then again, Meat turns out to be Spider.
Yes.
When it's
yeah.
Much
better name. Spider is much better than
much better than Meat.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just no. So maybe he did not write to like matching scenes of old men killing a person. So where did that come from?
Well, let's go to the work print comparison, and I'll inform you a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So again, the work print comparison is where we have the final film, which is completely filmed. When they have all the footage that they're going to be using, they bring it together into one giant mess. They then start dwindling down, editing out like little bits and pieces that needed to move the story on or something like that, and we end up with a final version of the film. So in comparison, we are currently in the movie working with minute 50 to 51. In the work print, we are currently working with minute 59:57 to 1 hour and 1 minute and 16 seconds. So every single time we go to the comparison, the work print gets a little bigger, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
We get to see a little bit of extra footage here and there, and it's kind of neat as a extra surprise to a longtime fan, because I am only watching the work print as I go minute by minute. So it's not like I've watched the whole entire work print and then cutting from there, but it's a surprise every single time I do a new minute. So the work print has a longer shot of the dropped jaw shot of the skeleton. When it cuts back to everyone scrambling, there's no reaction shot. So the close-up of like Tina screaming and grabbing onto is not there. It just cuts back and they're all of a sudden running away. Again, leaving poor Trash. Mm-hmm. And when Tina splashes down, it's a tad bit longer as she actually brings up her hand to wipe her hair away from her face. And then when the work print without the soundtrack, it lets us hear the creatures actually moaning and groaning. Plus, it's a longer shot of that first three that you see. As one of the characters actually gets out of the hole and starts walking about. As Spider, Scuzz, and Tina flee, we cut back to that first shot of the three to witness several more bodies have now populated that area. So the insert shot where we saw earlier, where I described the creature crawling behind the one tombstone and the hand coming out and all that sort of thing, that's all added later. They only had the one shot of the one that all of a sudden becomes populated with like 7 or 8 different guys crawling or stumbling towards camera, which is kind of neat. Now, for some strange reason, Trash's death sequence is cut. But so we see her stumbling, calling out for the others, mentioning that she has no shoes, which in the script, the lines that she has as Dee Dee, she says those lines as she's stumbling.
I have
through.
No shoes. Lady, you got no pants either.
Well, that's also the reason why she's bringing up the rear when everyone's running, is she has no footwear. She's going to be a little slower. Like running barefoot on asphalt is kind of painful when you think about it. Yeah. So the sequence cuts just as she's about to cut to the sequence where she falls on the thing. However, more on that in a future minute. Then we're inside the embalming room where the paramedics work together to finish their exams. First, they work on Frank, and then they move over to Freddy, checking the reflexes and the pupillary responses like it was mentioned in the script. Then they stand up, and the one paramedic, like the final edit, explains the situation. So the script does have a lot more. So it's not for another 2 minutes in like ish minutes in the in the script where Dee Dee's death sequence comes in.
Yeah.
So it's just obviously that they decided to. So I'm taking it in the work print. We don't see Trash get killed until a minute or two from now, and then they just edit it to put the two back to back. That's the reason why when the work print, because I'm watching the work print and it suddenly goes to a black screen. I'm like, oh crap, what's wrong? Oh no, it's a corrupted file. I'm watching a corrupted video, but then it cuts to the mortuary. I mean the embalming room, and I'm like, oh wait, what? So I back up, make sure I didn't skip anything or there was like a hiccup and all that. It's like, no, it just goes to black. So
it's
I pull
just
up
not here.
Yeah. So I pull up the script and I start just passing through the script, and then I see Dee Dee's name a little later on. I'm like, oh, I get it now. So obviously they just shot it in that order and all that sort of thing.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch a little more closely, I think, this kind of like next few minutes, because obviously they decided to put it earlier in the movie. Yeah. Presumably because they felt it like either all of them running away, they needed an actual like scare or some like they needed something, because otherwise it's just them running away and it's like, well, whatever. Like
that's true. Yeah.
And there is a lot of running away in this movie. Like much of the rest of the film is a bunch of characters leaving rooms really quickly, like running this way and running that way. And if they, I think Yeah. Maybe they just it's like we gotta
I can see
actually
it
make some scares, some actual
exactly.
reasons why they have to run every once in a while.
I totally back you up on that sort of thing. It seems like, okay, we've paced this out a little too far apart. Let's bring a bit of a, yeah, and have one of our characters get decimated and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
it's
And
only
because
been
I watched ahead a few minutes and like yeah, from this point forward, it feels like every time we go to some of the characters having like they have a scene and whether they run from the scene or whatever, it cuts then to another scene of someone dying, someone being attacked by
yeah,
zombies. So I guess they just sort of felt like
yeah.
every scene needs to then have an interstitial attack of zombie.
Exactly. But again, it was just a shock to like, wait, there was nothing. But the fact that it's like 3 seconds of a black screen, I'm like, did you want to put something in there? Like, is it like, but previously they've had like placeholders of just like a storyboard to show, hey, this is what's supposed to be happening in the sequence, obviously, because you shoot the film and you don't have your final special effects done or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. And also to hear the noise of the bodies
Yeah,
crawling
it's
out
too
of
bad
is just
that
like,
was lost.
yeah, but it's like howling and whatnot and sort of, and it's just
Well, again,
hilarious.
spoilers for the future, but man, it hurts to be a dead zombie.
It does.
Of
It totally
course, they're
does.
like
Yep.
screaming and howling as they're resurrected, and they're like, "Oh my God, I've been dead for 100 years, and now you want me to come back? Come
Exactly.
on.
Yeah.
I was in
Yeah.
eternal rest. What are you doing? And now I'm just hungry and in pain all the
Mhm.
time. I feel for these zombies, man.
For sure. For sure. Oh no, for
Yeah.
sure. I will point out that the word zombie is never mentioned in the movie.
I know.
Okay. Well, no, I had that pointed out to me by someone. I can't even remember where, or I read somewhere or something like that. I'm like, wait, no, oh no, you're right. They don't
Yeah,
say
they're
zombie.
they're just the living dead. And
Yeah.
I mean, similar to Night of the Living Dead, they were never
Yeah,
called
they're never,
zombies there
yeah,
either.
exactly.
They're ghouls.
Yeah, exactly. Ghouls. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the reason
But
why I call them creatures, monsters, and whatnot.
we all know
and yeah,
we
yeah,
all know
exactly.
they're
They're
zombies.
zombies. Yeah.
Just
yeah.
like when you see some sort of bloodsucker, it doesn't matter what it is. You
It's
call
a
it a
vampire.
vampire.
It's a vampire.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Or some sort of walking creatures that's been stitched together. Whatever. It's a Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is like super untrue because
So-
that's not even
exactly.
Frankenstein's not even the
Frankenstein
monster.
is, yes, exactly. It's Frankenstein's monster.
Frankenstein
is
is a monster.
is a monster. Yes.
Frankenstein
But-
the man is a monster, but he's
yes.
not the monster in the movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ugh, it's so hard being a horror fan.
I know,
You
it is,
you
isn't
gotta
it?
get so pedantic sometimes.
Exactly.
Jeez, get it right, people.
All right. So on that note, anything else you want to mention about this particular minute, actually, before we go any further, Miss Candice?
Let me see my notes. No. I think we covered a lot there.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Besides,
Oh, do you know what?
what?
We could actually talk a little bit about the special effects, about
Okay.
the look of these
Yeah.
zombies.
Okay.
I know that they're not happy with the skeleton that pops up, and I understand why, since all of the rest of the creatures, the living dead, the not zombies, look so wet and fleshy. But you know what? It's fine. It probably makes more sense for a body from the 1860s to come up just being a bare skeleton. There's no way that they would still have eyeballs, but this one did have eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, exactly.
you know
yeah.
what? I get it. And it's such an iconic, like, nobody thinks it looks bad. And nobody watching it was like, that looks ridiculous.
No.
Everybody thought, like, because it looked gnarly and it was dark and it had like, it still had chunks on it. It was not maybe like skin dripping off like some of the other ones, but I like a skeleton is more scary than a human in makeup.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't ever
Yep.
see skeletons. We just don't, right? A skeleton is like a very like dead, like that's just nothing left of a human. It's just the skeleton. And it's
Right.
scary.
Yeah.
So
Well, again, one of our feature creatures from this, is this party time, skeleton, which I think also becomes an iconic look because it is what it is. The sequence is punctuated by the music, the "Do you want to party?" And which hits right at that moment and all that sort of thing. So the music assisted, and when you look at images from the movie, you know what you're watching just from simple pictures. Again, two of the most iconic characters and creatures are both Trash and Tarman. But if someone were to see the skeleton doing what it is, you automatically know, that's the when the song Party Time starts playing, right?
That's the Do You Want to Party zombie.
Do you want to party zombie, right? So it's again an iconic thing. And again, when we're introduced to in a couple of at about 12 13 minutes from now, when we're introduced to the half corpse and all that sort of thing, again another iconic zombie because of just its look, because it's not a fleshed out zombie. It's this skeletal, gnarled character that is impactful because it looks different than the other ones. Tarman looks different from Party Time skeleton to half corpse woman to Yellow Man. Like the variety that we have of these horrors, of these again reanimated bodies, is just so across the board that it's a fantastic watch because everyone is completely different. I mean, obviously, when you got this sequence of people crawling out of the graves, and I didn't point out during the description, but when you look, it's just people. You can see that they have pink faces and all that sort of thing. They're regularly people that they just slathered them with mud and with the water, because obviously you're going to be dealing with water and mud. There's no way any really strong makeup is going to stay on you. Yeah. You also don't have a Rick Baker doing the special effects makeup like he did in Thriller, right? Which again mirrors these sequences, the coming out of the grave sequence and all that.
Like obviously, I said, it could be a music video.
And that's exactly, and when you mentioned that, I'm like, yes, just like Thriller, this sequence could be, 45 Grave could release a sequence of this whole entire cemetery sequence with Party Time.
But with the moaning, we gotta have the moaning.
Yes, with the moaning in the background and all that sort of thing. Yeah, that would be most ideal. But again,
to share the Thriller story.
Yes,
we as a family we recorded that video when it aired on TV, and we would rewatch it fairly regularly. I come by my horror fandom naturally. We were watching horror-y stuff, and so what was that, 83? So I would have been about 8 at that point. And so I loved it. I loved everything about it. But I always got scared once the music stopped. And it was just the moaning as they're like trying to get to Michael Jackson's character. And I would hide under the blanket, and my dad, love the man, maybe he made me a stronger person, but he thought that was great, and he would just turn the volume up louder and louder.
Nice.
Now, as an adult, I understand that when you're scared of something, don't worry about what you're looking at. Get rid of the sound, because the sound is actually scary. The visual is hardly ever that scary. It's the sound that's scary. Yes, I would hide under the blanket for that part, and he would turn it up louder. And now here I am. I'm perfectly normal.
I'm along the same basis as you. I believe I was 12 when it came out. I was a big Michael Jackson fan at the time because that was the thing. Thriller was a fantastic album and all that. But it wasn't, because prior to that, I had attempted to watch An American Werewolf in London several times, not being able to get past the first attack of the werewolf. I just terrified me beyond belief, and I just couldn't. But when I saw that music video, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. The zombies and all that sort of thing. All right. Then I soon after that discovered the making of Thriller, where it's what it is. It's the making of Thriller. They interview Michael Jackson. They interview John Landis. They interview Rick Baker. So all the behind the scenes stuff. And I'm like, oh, wait. And then part of it is the reason why Michael Jackson wanted John Landis to do this is because Michael Jackson saw An American Werewolf in London and wanted him to do it. And I'm like, oh, really? So this guy who did Thriller and the makeup guy that did Thriller also did An American Werewolf in London. And with that knowledge in my brain, I was able to sit through An American Werewolf in London on my next viewing, which unlocked everything for me.
Yes.
That again, like I've mentioned
Yeah.
previous times before, that was my very first modern day horror film, and from then on I just couldn't get enough of it.
And
all
now
that sort
here
of thing.
you are, perfectly
and now
normal.
I hear it perfectly normal. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Doing a podcast about another perfectly fine horror movie from the 80s and all that sort of thing. So yeah, so again, the parallels of the sequences looking pretty similar and all that sort of thing. Obviously a little different environment. One is set on a soundstage and all that, the Michael Jackson Thriller, just because it's all easily controlled, but hell of a lot. Probably that sequence alone cost more than the actual budget
The
of
whole
the
movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Return of the Living Dead. But again, yeah, it's a fun sequence to have to get through, and to be honest, I really can't wait to see this on a big screen. I mean, I've never had the chance to see this movie on a big screen, which is another reason why I want to do this on August 16th, 2025, when we're going to be doing a 40th anniversary showing in a Hamilton movie theater. If people can make it, they can. If they can't, we are going to be doing a live stream of a recording of the episode of our podcast, which is going to happen just before. I believe Candice is going to be one of my co-hosts, and I have another co-host sitting in as well with us. So it will be the three of us discussing the 1 minute for about an hour before we have to start showing the movie or run out of time and all that sort of thing. But
we
yes.
might end up discussing a bit more than just the 1 minute.
Oh, we'll definitely be, yeah, for sure we will. We'll be doing like a previously on sort of thing, but other than that, it'll be an interesting thing. So again, anything else you want to say about this particular minute, Miss Candice?
No, I think we have exhausted this minute, but it was a damn good one.
It was a damn good minute. Yeah, when we get a lot of action and all that sort of thing, it'll be fantastic. We don't get much gore, but we do get a lot of like visual stuff that really pulls the story along, which is fantastic. So all right, so that being said, I want to thank you, Miss Candice, for joining me for yet another minute of this podcast. I want to thank the audience again, like I do every single time. You guys are the thing that really drives me to keep this going. The numbers slowly but surely getting bigger every single week. We just recently had a pretty big boost with our Tom Matthews episode and all that sort of thing, and we're looking forward to doing more of that sort of thing, hopefully in the very near future. Again, fingers crossed. Tom had mentioned that he would like to come back, so I'm looking forward to setting up that sort of recording, and hopefully some other things will fall into line. And like I just mentioned, if you want to go to our ko-fi.com/planetgeekpod for our donation page to help us get some funds together to actually rent that movie theater, it would be very much appreciated. Again, thank you, Candice. Thank you, audience. I got nothing else to say, but see you next Wednesday.
You've just been listening to a Planet Geek production of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead. Please be sure to subscribe, download, comment, share, rate, and review. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, or Letterboxd. Search for Planet Geek Productions. X, former Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, search for Planet Geek Pod. Or send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Our closing music is provided by Night Chill. See the show notes for more details. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, fiends.
she landed as she gasps and attempts to open her eye. Wait. Small pond.
It's the exact same way that Linnea Quigley goes down. It's like literally exactly the same that Trash and Tina do the same thing.
Attempts to open her eyes. No, I missed something. I could have sworn I wrote a part where she pulls her head back out of the water. Oh yeah, I did. I missed a whole entire line. Fuck, I did. Okay. With tremendous force. Okay, let's do this whole entire line again. Right back to Tina by herself. All right. And she does. And she goes down hard, fully float. Wow. I have no idea. I've never talked before. This is new. This is my first episode and all that. Why am I getting so messed up with my own lines? Okay. And she goes down hard, fully flat, face planting. That's the word I want to say, not flat facing. Okay. One more time. Here we go. We're good. We got this. All right. Making an appearance. She goes down hard. Okay. Yep. There we go. All right. Man, this is probably going to be the most editing I have to do in an episode this week, and it's probably because it is Friday. This is my 5th one this week, so it's been a busy week. It's a good thing it's been a week off work. So,
yeah.
All right, let me just put that away. Okay, so we'll come back to talk about
yeah.
I
know. It's like, should we talk about
in
it now? Or
memoriam.
should we?
We'll do the in memoriam.
Talk about it after.
Yeah. Okay. So then we'd rather use fog. William Stout adds up how it's not simple to turn on. Where is it? Where he talks about that he's. Oh my God, is that he's been talking about rain for like? Oh fuck, he's been talking about rain for a couple of minutes. Anyways,
he's very, very proud of the rain. I guess
he is very proud of his work in the rain. Yes. All right. Let me get this out of the screen here. So let me bring that down so it's saved. Good. All right.
Yeah. Speaking of the rain, I looked up the Resurrected or the Resurrect or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I don't see all that much rain. There in the pictures on IMDb, there is one picture in the rain, and it's behind the guy who is in a phone booth. And every other picture, and there are a fair number of pictures, are all like super well lit indoor sets.
Really?
So I don't know what Dan O'Bannon is talking about, but
well, I mean, hindsight is never 2020, really, actually. So, but then again, it is Dan O'Bannon talking about Dan O'Bannon. So
yeah.
Dan O'Bannon's biggest supporter is Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah, he's also his biggest critic, though, too.
He's his biggest critic, and he's his biggest fan. Yes, exactly. Amongst all of them screaming their heads, I really should have read this before I'm so unprepared for this. I apologize for this, Candice. I am usually much better at this
I'm entertained, and I don't have to edit it, so.
All right, that's good enough. That was enough babbling on my part there. Holy crap.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I was like, once it's edited, it might not seem quite so long.
Oh, no, it definitely will not be nearly as hectic sounding. No.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.